Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. If you're new here, this is One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan. Yes, I am shaking up my premium protein shake. I need my energy to discuss professional wrestling at this wonderful event, WrestleDream. If you're new to this channel, I do whatever I can to promote my vision of what pro wrestling should be, good pro wrestling. It's a subjective medium. A lot of people like wrestling just the way it is. A lot of people don't. There's a lot of debate with AEW, WWE, what's better, what's worse, who's the best wrestlers. Tonight we had a good experience, I think. WrestleDream, I think, was overall a very good show. Not a perfect show. There was some lulls. I did go to the local movie theater, Cinemark movie theater, to enjoy the show on a big screen. Some of you might be new to this channel because I did kind of bootleg some clips of good old Adam Copeland. If you haven't heard by now, Adam Copeland, who I don't know is going if he's going to be using the name Edge or not. I assume not, but he appeared tonight. He was the big surprise. I don't know if that was Tony Khan's surprise. Tony Khan always likes to mention these surprises for us. By the way, feel free to comment. We're live. This is 12:55 a.m., October 2nd, 2023. Let me know how the audio is. I did get this new headset recently. We're here in the Foreign Object. Me and my buddy Jimmy Faluca. Hopefully, he's got his audio situation fixed real soon. We'll be doing an Undertaker tribute. If you guys have any comments about this show, please jump in. I think you might have to go to YouTube, though, if you're watching in the Foreign Object or in my Facebook group or even on Twitter. I think you have to actually make the effort to go to the YouTube video on YouTube and to make the comment in the live chat, which I hope you do because I always like to bounce things off of people. So we'll get into the match by match thing in a minute, but overall, a lot of the times that I watch these AEW shows, yes, they are very long. This one started at 7. It went till just about midnight, so about 5 hours. Um, I think there was 14 matches. There was 4 matches on the free hour, the 0 hour. The commentary team got switched back and forth a lot. Taz, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, Moxley doing some commentary. I thought that was pretty interesting tonight. I had mixed feelings about Mox. I like Mox as a wrestler. I actually do. I think I know he's a bleeder, but I think Mox is kind of old school. I do like his matches. I think he does have a main event feel to him. His color commentary, though, not the best. A lot of swearing from Mox. I think he enjoyed the freedom of just swearing his ass off, I guess. Um, but he didn't quite seem to understand that with commentary, you have to let other people speak. He cut off Excalibur a lot. He cut off Jim Ross a lot. And maybe some of that's in character, but I did find that, especially with that Brian Danielson match, which was one of the best matches of the night, maybe not the best, but right up there. I thought that Mox's commentary was distracting. I think he could have done the other match, the Wheeler Yuta match, would have been fine for Mox to do commentary, but I think he took away a bit from the Brian Danielson match with Zack Sabre Jr., especially because Mox didn't get physically involved. If there was some type of reason for Mox to be there, like if he got into a shoving contest with Sabre or I thought he and Ricky Starks would get into it, but unless I'm forgetting something or took a restroom break and missed it, I don't think Mox got physically involved. So him doing a commentary job didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Aubrey Edwards, she gets a lot of shit for her refereeing. I saw some video. It's going on a year and a half or 2 years ago. Someone put together like the worst of Aubrey. Is it Audrey or Aubrey? Is it a B or a D? It seems like the Audrey with a D is like the big female name these days. But whatever her name is, Audrey Aubrey Edwards. She loves to get her face in the camera. She loves to kind of upstage the talent. Tonight, she didn't really do that. But ever since I saw that video of her doing that, back then, I can't get it out of my mind. It was interesting that she had 2 big matches in a row. So let's get into it. If you guys have any comments, like I said, I think you actually have to go to YouTube and make the comments in the live chat. Sometimes if you make a comment on Facebook, I'll see it. Sometimes I won't. But I do want to get your comments. And unfortunately, a couple of times I've done these live streams and people are commenting, but they're commenting on Facebook and I don't see them until too late. Let's get to the results here. I came into the movie theater about 10 p.m. Eastern time. So if there was anything that happened the first couple of minutes, I missed it. But I was there to see this Shane Taylor Promotions, Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. Diamante, it's interesting that she's got her job back because, I mean, there was a while there where she was kind of, fired from AEW. And Mercedes Martinez, it seems like with I want to talk about some of these wrestlers that are on the show that haven't been doing a lot. And Mercedes is really one of those because when she first came into AEW, which must have been 2 years ago, a year and a half at least, they made a big deal about it. Like she was this tough, real life shooter type of woman. And am I making this up or has she done really nothing? I mean, she's really just, not even had an angle that I can even think of. I mean, it seems like they brought her in there because she's, as Jim Ross said on the show tonight, a good hand, not about her, but about somebody else, about Swerve Strickland, I think. But in any event, Mercedes Martinez, unless I'm really forgetting some big angle or even some little angle, I don't know what they're doing with her. But Tony Khan's a generous guy. He'll give anyone a job. Maybe he should give me a job. Maybe he should give you a job. They took on Keith Lee, another case in point. Here we go. My buddy Lawrence Laza's checking in. And Chungus. Good to see Chungus. Good day, all. Greetings from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. I'm interested, Laza. Did you actually get to see the show tonight? If you guys missed it, I did, yes, etch to AEW confirmative. Chungus, you are correct. And I did have the footage. I actually taped it on my phone and I bootlegged it. I'll probably get a copyright infringement from YouTube, but it was worth it because I got about 30 new subscribers in a half an hour. Hopefully, some of them will join us tonight and see what all the fuss is about. If you guys have any more commentary, please, by all means, write your statements. And I do have that Edge footage because I bootlegged it for you. So we have this opening match: Keith Lee, Satoshi Kojima, Athena, and Billy Starks. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. Of these wrestlers, I really am pretty familiar with Athena and Keith Lee. It was a fine opener. I mean, I think the big thing for me watching this is just thinking, what's going on with Keith Lee? And the answer, like Mercedes Martinez, is a whole lot of nothing. I think with Keith, I'm remembering, was it a year ago, a year and change ago, that we had Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland against the Acclaimed and in Chicago, and they blew the roof off the joint, and then they had a rematch, I think, at Grand Slam that year. Snugs is going to comment. I'll get to that. Lawrence, haven't, but I rarely watch current pro wrestling. Just keep up with it through media, but may watch it later. Fair enough. My buddy Ian's here. Did you like Max on commentary? I did not. I liked him if he had just done the one match, the Ricky Starks match with Wheeler Yuta. I would have liked that. Snugs, but I think he distracted from the Bryan Danielson match. And I went into that a little bit deeper just a few minutes ago. You must have joined in, but that's pretty much my opinion. I do like Mox. I like his wrestling. I know he's a bleeder, but I kind of respect the fact that he came over to AEW when it was just getting started. I am a Mox defender. He's a guy that a lot of people would think that I don't like because he's a modern day wrestler, but he's one of the few modern day wrestlers that I actually think is worth his salt. And I did see a young John Moxley wrestle at a AEW Dragon Gate pay per view back in, I think, 2010. He was actually there. He was very skinnier. He was much skinnier back then. My buddy Ian, he's a Floridian. We still haven't met up, buddy. I'll be going to NXT shows October 27th and then 28th. If you want to meet me there, I did get general admission this time. I did not get a reserved seat, so I'll be able to prowl around. But the two shows are somewhere in Orlando because I want to be staying in Orlando for 2 nights, October 27th and 28th, the NXT weekend. Literally caught the last 10 minutes of this. Totally forgot I was on. Pretty cool the way Edge came in. Yep. I do have the footage for you, Ian, on this channel. I bootlegged it for everybody. Chungus as a tag team, then they split up. You're talking about Swerve and Keith Lee. Now, let me ask you this, Chungus. Do they do, I mean, I know that they had like a little bit of a pissing contest. But did they do singles matches? Did they have an extended feud? I mean, that's one thing. I'm an AEW defender, but they're not the best with execution and follow through with storylines. I mean, I don't remember them doing a whole lot of Keith Lee Swerve theme matches. I'm getting confused because I'm reading Ian's comments here. Mox's original theme music was a million times better. Is he still using Joan Jett Wild Thing? Which I mean, I'm wondering if that's his tribute to the movie, the baseball movie with God, with Charlie Sheen, because they use that song Wild Thing in that movie. Was the Brian Danielson match as good as I'm hearing? I heard it was 5 stars. Getting a chance to watch. Here's my issue with the match. Two things. Neither one of them was Brian Danielson's fault. I think Brian Danielson is excellent in the ring. Sometimes I think his social media presence or just his veganism is a little annoying. But I love Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson in the ring is awesome. Uh, I think the Zack Sabre guy is great too. Zack Sabre Jr., however, is not a good seller. I mean, I get it. He's trying to be a tough guy. He's trying to be stiff. But part of pro wrestling, in my opinion, is you make your opponent look good too. And Danielson was doing a bunch of stuff. And I think some of that was within the storyline of the match. But I'm just getting the impression that Sabre just does not know how to sell. He probably does know how to sell. He just doesn't want to. Even at the end of the match, like pretty much the second to last move that Danielson did to get the victory, uh, Sabre was kind of no selling in my book, unless his type of selling is no selling. But to me, I don't get it. I mean, everyone sings a song about this guy, how great he is, but I just think that Zack Sabre could watch some Pedro Morales matches from the '70s and learn how to fucking sell. Even Riho, if Riho, the former women's champion at AEW, she's one of the best sellers in the goddamn sport right now, and nobody gives her credit but me. But selling's a big part of it. And, Sabre Jr. doesn't seem to understand that. I mean, he's basically pulling the Road Warrior Hawk pile driver on Jerry Lawler thing. 2 months free of KO Sports. This is my buddy Laza in Australia. Laza actually inspired me to get on Cameo. If any of you guys need a Mike Messier cameo for whatever reason, you're more than welcome to do that. Another thing you can do, which would benefit us both, is get one of my goddamn books, Fighter Play Basketball, A Distance from Avalon. Get one of my books, okay? But let's talk about this. 2 months free of KO Sports, a sports streaming platform here in Australia. Both WWE and AEW are on it. Watching more current stuff, utilizing it. That's great. I mean, look, man. I mean, if you have the resources to watch the weekly shows, then do. And I don't know if you have the ability in watching these shows to fast forward through commercials or through the boring parts, but that's always good too. Chungus, you're absolutely right. The team was called Swerve in Our Glory. And I remember liking that team. And I'll tell you why, Chungus. It's because Keith Lee was coming off of COVID. He was a little bit heavier back then. He was doing his best to earn his living, but he was not 100%. And I thought the tag team of Swerve getting to do his high flying stuff, Swerve selling the moves, tagging the big man Keith Lee. I thought that was a great thing. I thought they had chemistry as a team. I know that they wanted to make Swerve a heel, but we saw what happened tonight. Swerve was a heel, but he's getting cheered like the number one guy in the show. That was actually kind of like that kind of stole the show, to be honest with you. Swerve and Adam Page, and I don't think it was because their match was so good. I just think the fans were the most hyped for that match. There was also like 3 or 4 guys tonight: Darby, Brian, and Swerve. And am I forgetting anyone else that was like a Seattle native? I don't remember. I might have been yapping off about the acclaimed and if that's what you mean, and where they had the title change. I think it was at the tennis stadium, the Arthur Ashe thing last year when they had the tag team title change when the acclaimed finally won the belts. If that's what you're talking about. Sometimes when you make comments, guys, I lose track of what we're talking about. Major League, yeah. Was that the name of the movie? Major League? It wasn't Major League Baseball. I think it was just Major League. I think they were either. I think it was the White Sox, and Charlie Sheen was the pitcher, and he came out to the song "Wild Thing." Yes, the Major League, the movie. Correct. Okay, very good. Let's see what Laza has to say regarding Mercedes Martinez. I feel she is a great talent, but gets held up. Gets let me read this again, guys. I'm always conscious because you never know. There might be someone out there who's blind and who's listening to me but not seeing the words, or maybe someone's like driving in their car or doing other things and they're just listening to the audio. So I'm going to try to read Lawrence's Laza from Australia. His full comment says, regarding Mercedes Martinez, I feel she is a great talent, but she gets held down as she is an older talent. I think you just hit it, buddy. And I think they just kind of brought her in there to be a hand, and they didn't give her like the killer thing like Shayna Baszler in NXT or Ronda Rousey in WWE or even Jade Cargill in AEW. Like they didn't do any of that anywhere near that with Mercedes, and they just kind of made her a hand, you know. Let's see, Snugs. Prince Nana dancing to Swerve's theme will honestly never get old to me. The crowd loves it as well. It's interesting, buddy. You know, sometimes these guys, these wrestlers, or, you know, women or men, like Becky Lynch a couple of years ago, they turn heel, but then they get more over than ever before. Similar to Roman Reigns, you know, but Swerve was not as over as a babyface in AEW. He was to an extent, but as a heel and with the Prince Nana guy, very interesting. I'm curious, Snugs, do you watch Ring of Honor, or do any of you guys subscribe to Honor Club? Because I'm curious to see, like, or just to know. I don't know if I even have time to watch another full wrestling, you know, promotion. And not that ROH is, in my opinion, it's just AEW with just more and more belts. I can't believe they actually have an ROH six-man title with Paige and the Bucks, but they do. I don't like the thing where everybody gets a belt. I'll talk to you soon. This is Ian Patrick Gagnon, my buddy from Florida. Yo, I'll talk to you soon, bro. I'll get the info on that NXT gimmick at the end of October. That'd be sick if we can meet up there. Have a good night, bro. Of course. Yes, it's October 27th and 28th. It's a Friday and a Saturday. There are two NXT shows that I will be going to. They're both in the state of Florida. They're both within driving distance of Orlando. So I'm going to be centrally located. I want to stay at a hotel for a couple of nights in Orlando and go to both shows. And if you guys like NXT, I go to these NXT shows in Florida. Part of it is because I know that a lot of people love NXT. They're not able to see what happens there. So I take still photographs. I put them into these little videos. If you go over to my shorts section, not the shorts that I'm wearing right now, but the shorts on the YouTube channel, you'll see these really cool little, you know, videos that I make of NXT shows. And I've been making some old school stuff. Thanks, Snugs. I appreciate that, buddy. Amazon. Amazon has all my books. I also have a pro wrestling trivia book. If you're into grindhouse stuff, this is Kate Spain, Bad Girls with Good Tattoos. This is a very sexy, nasty book. It says Kate Spain wrote it, but I'm Kate Spain. Sorry to break the kayfabe of it all, but I put a female name on this one, and I actually used a fake female face because I figured I get more people to read it. But I don't think anybody's read it, so you might be the first. You could actually be the literal first person to read that book if you like grindhouse stuff. A Distance from Avalon is my gothic horror. Fight or Play Basketball is probably the book that most people would like. They're all on Amazon. Just look up Mike Messier. And actually, if you're on your computer, um, there should be links on this page where you can just go direct, or go to MikeMessier.com and scroll to the bottom, buddy, and you can see all my stuff. I have a section on MikeMessier.com at the bottom where it says "Stand Me on Social," so you can look up all my stuff right there. Buy one of his goddamn books. Ian actually and I did an Ultimate Warrior tribute video about a year. Man, it was 2 years ago. Man, time flies, bro. That was a good one. That's featured on this channel. Ian and I discussing the Ultimate Warrior, the pros, the cons. I'm a big fan. He's a big fan, but Jim, or Ultimate Warrior as a human being, did have some flaws, and we don't shy away from talking about it. You don't remember if Swerve and Keith had a long feud or not. So Chungus has chimed in again, and I'm glad he did, because he was saying he didn't remember, and then I couldn't remember what he couldn't remember, and what he couldn't remember is if Swerve and Keith Lee had a long feud or not. I think the answer is no, and I think they've done this many times in AEW, and it annoys me because they sometimes, like, the Pinnacle, which was the MGF group with FTR and the chair guy, the chairmaster. and the big man. I always want to call him Adam Bomb. He looks just like Adam Bomb to me, Wardlow. But they had their pinnacle feud with the Inner Circle when the Inner Circle were baby faces. I was actually there when that feud started because I was going to all these dynamites at the time. And then the very first match they did was Blood and Guts, 2021, the original Blood and Guts, which was also interesting, guys, because that's the only time I've been to a wrestling show when there was literally one match live. It was a one match show, but I still had a great time. But my point is, they didn't really build up to Blood and Guts. They went straight from the angle where the groups started into Blood and Guts. But they did have the heels go over, which was interesting. Laz has got a nice comment. Once again, I'm going to, for the benefit of the sight impaired, if there are already sight impaired people here, I'm going to read this whole comment. I would love to see Mercedes Martinez get some runs with one of the women's belts in AEW. She would make a good in-between champion with some runs for younger talent. AEW are trying to build as more permanent champions, etc. The term that you use, in between champion, traditionally, I believe the wrestling people use the term transitional champion. Let me read your comment one more time, buddy, for the benefit of the sight impaired. I would love to see Mercedes Martinez get some runs with one of the women's belts in AEW. She would make a good transitional champion with some runs for younger talent. AEW are trying to build as more permanent champions, etc. So basically, for instance, God, who's the women's champion AEW right now? Statlander. So stay somehow Mercedes upset Statlander for the that's the TBS title. And then you had Mercedes lose to God, who would she lose to? Tony Storm. I think there's so much interest in Tony Storm with her actress gimmick that if Tony Storm were also to throw a title belt on her, I think that would be great. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm kind of glad that Jade Cargill has moved on to AEW because if they were not going to have her lose matches, and I mean the Statlander having her lose to Statlander was just to get the belt off her and get her out of town. But if she was just going to be this Goldberg, esque person dominating this title for 10 years, that's not good wrestling. That's not good booking. I mean, the stuff like Goldberg or, you know what I mean? It's not good when one person has to. I think Jim Ross or somebody says this. If you can't lose a match and still be over, you're not doing your job. You know what I mean? So people like Bill Goldberg, he's the worst case scenario. Jade was kind of getting there, to be honest with you. I mean, on the flip side, I hope Jade's not getting trained by Cody Rhodes in NXT Orlando to get her shoulders to the mat for Charlotte next year at WrestleMania, like Cody did to Roman. Anyway, Mercedes is a great talent. Screw the age, shake my head. She's kind of fine too. Chungus has a thing for Mercedes. I respect that. She kind of has a what was that show, buddy, with the biker babes with like the show with the bikers, Katie Seagal, the mom. It's interesting because Katie Seagal looks so much better on that show. The biker show than she did Sons of Anarchy than she did on Married with Children like 30 years earlier, right? So I mean, I could see Chungus. I'm guessing you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, but in any event, yeah, I mean, like I said, just Mercedes, Keith Lee, Athena. I mean, let's talk about Athena for just a minute. Athena, she came in super hot to AEW. People were really excited that she was there. And I haven't been watching every week at Dynamite, but I don't think she's been used very well either. So what's going on with Athena? They could even just do a program with Athena versus Mercedes and people would be into it. But I think some of these wrestlers, I think some of them have maybe injuries that they don't discuss, and so they don't mind if they're kind of maybe getting less of a spotlight and just being used more sparingly. I'll also say this, guys, the big, not so secret of pro wrestling these days is these wrestlers love AEW because the amount of matches they have to put in, for the most part, is very, very light. The company does not do a lot of house shows. They basically do 2 or 3 television shows a week, and sometimes they consolidate the tapings. And now it looks like they're going to a once a month pay per view thing. But But these AEW wrestlers have it made compared to the wrestlers from, even 10 years ago in WWE or TNA or wherever. Only time I watch it, this is Snugs again. Only time I watch anything with Ring of Honor is when they appear on AEW TV. That's the same with me, buddy. I don't think we need all these stupid ROH titles. The ROH Pure Wrestling Championship? Are you kidding me? I mean, how many titles do we need? And you can see that. I think Samoa Joe a few months ago had two of these titles. I think he had the TNT title and an ROH title, and Eddie now has two titles, and I just don't get it. My buddy Laza is putting me over again. Thank you. Also, highly recommend Mike on Cameo. On my review, I put legendary. He gives you good value with Cameo. Yeah, and I'll shoot from the hip here, buddy. Laza had shown me some of the cameos he had gotten from specifically Kevin Sullivan and Raven, and I like both of those guys a lot. As you know, I've worked with Raven, Chris and the Coffee Girl, the Philadelphia Experience. But Laza's question to everybody is, how do I get in the pro wrestling business on the creative end, the booking end? And I just wasn't really pleased with like the non-answers that these guys are giving you. So I didn't have the cachet or the resume of those two guys. I mean, those guys are legends in wrestling, but I tried to give you a 7-minute answer that at least gave you some ideas, buddy. So, uh, but thanks, Laza. I'm on Cameo, Mike Messier. Okay, Gabby, great to have you here. New person, great to have a new person here. I don't want to assume anything, but I mean, from my understanding, Gabriella or Gabby is a female name, so I hope I'm not misrepresenting you. But in any event, male, female, whatever, I hope you enjoy being here. And let's read your comment. Adam Copeland is all elite. Yeah, I cry for happiness. Yeah, I like see Adam Copeland, TNT or AEW World Champion. Gabriella, I can totally see that happening, especially with the TNT title, given that they had Christian Cage retain the title. And it really was a pretty epic match if you think about it. I mean, I think that show was long. My buddy, happy birthday, by the way, to Andrew Gulick. I don't know if he sits through my videos here, but Andrew's birthday was today. He's in one of the Facebook wrestling groups I'm in, the Reach for Wrestling discussion group. That's a good wrestling group, about 1,000 people in there on Facebook. Andrew and I always debate about wrestling. He's a very much a modernist fan. I'm very much an old school fan at times. But Andrew's birthday is today, and the point is the fact. Andrew, my friend Andrew Gulick was saying that this show is going to be so long because of the 14 matches, and I was saying, hey buddy, I went to the Crockett Cup when I was an embryo, and I sat through 3.5 hours this first night and 4.5 hours the second night, and 24 tag teams, blah blah blah. But the point is, this show tonight was a very long show. It was 5 hours long. There was 14 matches, and for Adam Copeland, but I think give credit to Christian Cage and Darby Allin, because even those two guys just having a match without Sting, uh, even before they tore apart the ring, I think the stuff with the mom was incredible. It's funny because this mom, if her son is an 18-year-old wrestler, I'm guessing the mom is about 40, maybe a little bit younger, but the mom looks pretty good. And I don't know if the mom is a shoot mom, like is she really his mom, the Ken Wayne wrestler guy? Is that really her? Is that really her kid or not? Because the mom looks pretty good to me. And I think it would be, I was hoping the mom would turn heel, to be honest with you. I was hoping that Edge is gonna, be dating the mom or something, but or maybe she'll still turn heel. I mean, if like I said, the execution, follow up with this, have some type of 6-man match on the next pay per view, and have the mom, turn against Sting and Copeland and Darby. And have like the mom become, Christian Cage's arm trophy, and Christian Cage becomes the stepfather to this Ken kid. So, Gabby, if you have any more opinions, I'd be interested in your take on the mom angle. Very interesting stuff with Christian. Christian apparently was never over with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon wanted to put a blue dot on Christian Cage's face. If you ever heard that one, they wanted. Apparently, the story is Vince McMahon hated Christian so much, hated his face, that he had an idea for an angle. This is Vince McMahon Jr. He wanted to put a blue dot on Christian's face every time he wrestled, and they never did it. They said they didn't have the technology. I think it would have been pretty funny, to be honest with you. But the point is, Christian, I think, does so much better outside of WWE. Even 15 years ago with TNA. I mean, if you look at Christian Cage and TNA wrestling when he's a babyface and then turned heel, he was great. And then he comes back to WWE. They give him the ECW title. I was actually there. It was a Survivor Series when he beat uh, the USA guy, the big muscle guy, Jack Swagger. But basically, Edge comes back. They give him the kind of tepid ECW title run, and then a couple of years later, he had a good feud with Randy Orton. If you remember that era, when it was like CM Punk versus John Cena, and on the undercard was Randy Orton versus Christian. Uh, so I think Christian Cage is a great talent, and I think that he's been terribly underused in WWE. But whenever he goes somewhere else, namely TNA 15 years ago, or AEW, 2.5 years ago, he does awesome. And I think what's really cool about having Adam Copeland in, Gabby and everybody else, is that this history of Edge always outshining Christian, they can totally do that here. Christian Cage now has the title belt, or a title belt, the TNT belt. Will Adam want that belt? Will he just want to, set his buddy straight? Will he want to fight him? I guess we'll find out, right? Laza, once again, I have a love-hate for Ring of Honor. It's like pro wrestling's version of Star Trek. You can have really good content like Star Trek, but at times get a bit square for me. That's one thing, buddy. The only real Star Trek thing that I'm into, two things: The Wrath of Khan, the second movie, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and I like that because the guy from Fantasy Island was the villain. He was Khan, Ricardo Montalban, if I said that right. And then the second thing I liked is that I went to see William Shatner do a one-man show, and this was not that long ago. This was like 2017, 2018, and Shatner had to be 85 years old or 80 years old, and he fucking tore that house down, man. He was great. So I'm not a big Trekkie myself, but I do appreciate it, if that makes any sense. And the recent movie, I guess it was a 2009 movie. The actor who played Shatner's character, I hate that actor, like Chris, whatever his name is, Chris Pine. I'm really sick of Chris Pine. He's boring to me. Chungus Khan says Adam Copeland roughly translates to man bought land. What the fuck am I talking about? In Turkish, Adam can mean man. Likewise, Copeland is derived from Old Norse Copuland, or bought land. Well, I would say that the Adam thing could be a biblical deal because in the Bible, Adam and Eve, right? So I can see that. And then Copeland, Old Norse Copuland, or bought land. Very interesting, buddy. I don't know if they could work that, if they haven't figured out how to work that all into his thing by now, they probably never will. But I'm glad you're saying that. I got a lot of comments to catch up on. You guys have been great here with the comments. I didn't realize we have so many. We did have the Adam Copeland. My buddy Michael A.J. Norris, I did a special video for him the other day. He requested my thoughts on The Miz. So I tore up The Miz. I said The Miz is a placebo. So no offense. I mean, I think the best thing about The Miz is Maurice, to be honest with you. AEW becoming WCW, in Impact hiring WWE guys. Well, that's true, buddy. And you know what? I was just thinking that tonight because I said, the last couple of AEW pay-per-views have all had really good matches. They've all been pretty long. But the one that always sticks out to me was the one from Chicago. I think the same one had Punk versus Darby. And then at the main event, I think it was like Omega. Didn't he defend the title and retain it against Hangman Page? But then they had like Bryan Danielson come out, and Adam Cole Bebe came out. And so you had like this whole power dynamic of Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson with the surprises, two pretty big surprises back to back, and CM Punk right there. So, I mean, the point is, we haven't had anything like that until tonight. And tonight, I guess you could say that Edge or Adam Copeland, whatever his name is, interesting that he's still using the same name, same song, I should say. But he's like the first big AEW signing from WWE alumni since the Endeavor thing went into effect. And on WWE's part, Jade Cargill made a nice note for herself. She put herself over, which the wrestlers are very good at doing. And she put herself over that she's the first big signing to Endeavor since that transition in structure or ownership. Biker Mice from Mars, Chungus Khan. I don't know if that's a show or a cartoon. I haven't seen that, but I was saying that Chungus probably is into Sons of Anarchy, or because he likes Mercedes Martinez. I was mentioning Sons of Anarchy. Yep. So I'm catching up. Mayan MC Laza is saying, I don't know what that's in reference to now. Edge is back. Cam the Fan, I hope you're a new subscriber or a new commenter, Cam the Fan. If you like AEW, I have a bunch of stuff I should mention on this channel. If you dig it up, it's the House Always Wins, that show that was like their first house show. And this is going back, I want to say 2021. And I pretty much taped all of the matches except for one match. Happened to be the Jade Cargill match. I should have saved that too, but I had to reload my phone. And there's an awesome 10-man tag team match with the Elite, and that's on this channel. So don't go there now, but put that in your things to watch. I got a bunch of wrestling stuff. Wrestling Son, John Cronus from the Eliminators. Some other wrestlers are in that. Killer Kowalski, Ox Baker, one of the boys. Great question, AJ Norris. Mikey, do you think Brock Lesnar will go to AEW? I mean, and this is what it comes down to. It's money. Brock, I don't want to say he has no loyalty, but I think he's comfortable with WWE. And I think if WWE gives him more money than AEW would, he'll stick with what he knows. But I don't think Brock is the type of guy, who cares that much about where he's getting paid, just how much he's getting paid. So if we ever get to the point where WWE does not want to hire Brock, which we haven't seen any sign of that because they keep bringing him back, but if they ever get to a point where they're just sick of Lesnar, I could totally see him doing some AEW. But also I'll say this: Lesnar has ties with both UFC and WWE. As far as I know, Lesnar is on good terms with everybody. At this point, I mean, 15 years ago, not so much when he left WWE in 2003. Or 2004, I should say, after the Goldberg match at WrestleMania that year, WrestleMania 20. But I think Lesnar's on good terms now. Carlos, I think it's been a while since I've seen you here, Carlos. I remember you from a while back. Good to see you again, buddy. It's been a long time. Unless I'm thinking of someone else, but I thought that was you. Edge and AEW, incredible. It feels weird. It does. It always feels weird when there's a big transition. I mean, it's going to feel weird when we see Jade in WWE. I mean, think about going back to 91, Ric Flair coming into WWF at the time, the real world's champion. That felt weird. When Davey Boy Smith in February of 93 came over to WCW, that felt really weird. So some wrestlers, you just think of being in the promotion that they're in forever. But, it's like the good old days, the territories before, and most of you guys were born before I was born. There was these territories and the wrestlers would travel around. And I think that's kind of at the heart of a lot of wrestlers is they like that, you know, uh, Cornette says it all the time. I always quote Cornette on this one. How can we miss you if you don't go away? So there you go. So when are AEW going to bring Bill Watts in for a cup of coffee to run a WCW where he books for them? Interesting point. I mean, I think maybe if TNA didn't do it, I don't think AEW will do that. And, I lived through the Bill Watts era. You know what I mean? Hi, Judd. Nice to see you here. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm glad you're here. Even if you're not, I'm glad you're here. But also, I have other channels. One Man in the Camera Films is my original films. One Mikey Messier. If you want to hear me tear up some current movies, I give good reviews. But if I don't like something, the Ezra Miller Flash situation, I tore him a new one. Go over to one Mikey Messier for my film reviews. But this is our pro wrestling and sports channel. If Edge joins this is Laza again. If Edge joins AEW, will he return as Sexton Hardcastle? And will they also bring in true to the crew click like Joey Legend, Rhino to complement Christian AEW? Well, buddy, I mean, maybe you didn't see, but Edge is in AEW and he's in it tonight. And Edge basically turned on Christian, or Adam Copeland. He kind of faked like he was going to be a bad guy and team up with Christian's new buddy, Ken Wayne, the young 18-year-old, if that's even his name, and Luchasaurus, who I'm wearing a Luchasaurus shirt tonight. But instead, Edge turned babyface and he whacked the youngster with a chair. He shook hands with Sting and he shook hands with Darby Allin. So Edge is a babyface, and it's basically a 3-on-3 feud with Edge, Sting, and Darby against the young kid, the Ken Wayne, Christian as the daddy figure, and Luchasaurus as the muscle. And the mom of the Ken Wayne rookie, I guess she's a big star now because she's a big part of this angle. So it was actually pretty good. To be the pay-per-view tonight, WrestleDream, it felt like that story of Luchasaurus beating the kid in the opening match, and then from the time they went there, and then fast forward, 3.5 hours, that's what we had. Elizabeth Raponi checking in. That's a nice Italian name. I lived in Rhode Island for many years, Elizabeth. And Raponi would seem like people that I would know up there. I'm assuming you're Italian, but I could be wrong. Sophisticated WWE Raw. Not sure what you mean by that, but feel free to explain it. Laza, once again, Lund Christian's run in TNA really stood out like Flair. He has a great talent for TNA. What show was this on? Hey, Juan, how you doing, buddy? Sorry you're having a bad day. Juan, bad day. There was a pay-per-view tonight, buddy, WrestleDream. And this is another problem, man. And I can understand your plight because AEW does not do a great job of promoting these pay-per-views. And I'm assuming you're talking about the angle that we're all talking about, Edge, Adam Copeland. If you just mean what's behind me, this graphic, this is a still photo I took at Daly's Place maybe 2 years ago. And this is, you can see some of the fans in the background have masks on. This is after the COVID restrictions, so they were selling more seats, but this is some type of 6-man match. It looks like Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz against 2.0 or FTR and somebody else. So I take a lot of clips, man. So if you're into like AEW or even NXT, I have clips and I have still photographs in the short section, all types of AEW clips. I'm not sure if that answers the question. Or I gave you 2 answers for 1 question, so hopefully we got something figured out. Judd 330 comments again. Question: can you imagine Randy Orton in AEW? Just curious. Great question. I can't imagine it. And I think once again, look, we've had Mark Henry, we've had Christian Cage, now we have Adam Copeland. Who else? The Big Show, Paul White, which I guess we can't say he's the Big Show in AEW. That's a WWE trademark, but Big Show or Paul White is in AEW and he's wrestled there a few times. And he did do that little skit with MJF and Adam Cole on the boat. So my point is, a lot of these wrestlers that we never thought we'd see outside of WWE. I mean, the biggest one for me is Bryan Danielson and Mox. So I mean, why not? I mean, why couldn't we see Randy Orton in AEW? To be honest with you, I think he'd do quite well, and I think that Randy Orton could be put into anything. He could definitely want to main event that guy, of course, but I do feel like there's other people. Claudio Castillo. He was wrestling on the free hour tonight. He did win at least. Kind of an interesting thing they did with him and Josh Barnett. Laza agrees with me. Laza says Chris Pine is a Ken doll, so plastic. Yeah, I don't think I'm sick of him. Not personally, but just as an actor, I'm sick of Chris Pine. I'm jealous of him too because I feel like I'm a better actor than him, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, Juan chimes in again. Not a fan of AEW pay-per-views, cost too much, amongst other things. Well, I do have some, at least one legal recommendation for you, Juan. You can do what I do if you want to give this a shot. I went to the movie theater tonight. Cinemark has these AEW pay-per-views here in Jacksonville. Another theater has them, AMC. And I've seen the in New England, in Warwick, Rhode Island, they had a movie theater with an AEW pay-per-view, and basically the cost is typically either 20 or 25 bucks, and you sit there and you watch the movie screen, like the huge movie screen, and the wrestling pay-per-views on it. Now the downside of that is you're not in the comfort of your own home. The upside is you have a much bigger screen. The audio is awesome. Another downside is that you can't record the show for posterity. But the upside is you don't have to clean up your house. If you want to have people watch it with you, if you have friends, they can buy a ticket. Everyone pays their own ticket. You don't have to split up the pay-per-view thing. It's an experience, and I did this twice this weekend, buddy. I went to the Canelo Alvarez fight at the movie theater, the exact same theater. So I've been in the movie theater a lot this weekend. The Canelo Alvarez fight last night or 2 nights ago at this point, and now AEW. So Chris Pine, Lazo checks in again. Chris Pine would fit in well with WWE. He could have a run with one of the WWE's top titles. I mean, the way that they push these, who's the guy, the Bad Bunny? Here's the thing: Bad Bunny defeating the wrestler. God, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. The big wrestler defeats him, and then the wrestler wins the Money in the Bank. And so it's like, what if this guy wins a title, but he lost to I get it. You know, kayfabe is dead, and we have to make those celebrities look good at all costs. And Bad Bunny does all these high flying moves. But to me, guys, I want to cheer for wrestlers that actually want to be wrestlers. You know, I mean, I get it. Logan Paul is very good. But to me, I want to cheer for people that actually care about wrestling and aren't just using wrestling as a fun little side item. I call me crazy, but I mean, and yes, there's a place for celebrities and stuff, but I just feel like I'd rather dedicate my fandom to real wrestlers, not to celebrities pretending to be wrestlers. And I think when you have the celebrities going back to LT, defeating Bam Bam Bigelow, I think it diminishes the wrestlers because you're basically saying, oh, yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow's been wrestling for 15 years, but he's going to lose to Lawrence Taylor. And then I guess the response is always, oh, well, it's fake and everyone knows it's horse shit. Well, I mean, I come from the school of wrestling fanhood where they at least tried to make you believe. They at least put forth the effort. Some of the stuff tonight on this pay-per-view, I'll tell you, I mean, there was a lot of those little moments where one guy punches at the other guy just stands there and waits for the punch to return. You punch me, I punch you. I hate that. And then there's so many times tonight where people were jumping off the top turnbuckle, you know, backwards and flipping on people or doing the back somersault and just the thing that I hate about those moves, yes, they're spectacular, but then the wrestlers just stand there like, "Oh, I'm going to catch you." I mean, if you were really having a guy fly in your face, wouldn't you just like take a couple of steps and let him land on the concrete? They should do that at some point. Stiff stuff with Christian and Darby Allin tonight on the steps. Lawrence says Mayan MC is a spin-off series following Sons of Anarchy about the Mayan MC Club and Sons of Anarchy. Okay, very good. I'm still yet to finish watching Sons of Anarchy episodes so I can start watching Mayan MC. I haven't watched a full episode of any of it, but I'm aware that it exists. I just watched a really good show on HBO called Crashing. It's about a stand-up comedian guy, his trouble with stand-up comedy, his trouble with his wife cheating on him. He's a Christian guy, but yet he likes to have sex with random other women, of course. Good show. Laza once again. Theo from Rushmore with Tommy plays Juice on Sons of Anarchy. Mike, how cool is that? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Theo Rossi, I think you're thinking of. Yeah, the actor. Laza says, well, there you go. You'll have to catch up on AEW, share some news from it on Laza's Pro Wrestling fan group, the Foreign Object, etc., regarding Edge and AEW. Well, buddy, that's what we're here for. That's what we've been doing. And Laza does have a group, Laza's Pro Wrestling fan group. I think you also have Laza's Combat Sports group in Facebook world. And you're more than welcome to copy and paste this URL. Okay, guys, Juan chimes in again. Also never understood how to watch them. Not sure. You're talking about the pay-per-views one? I mean, I think there's a few ways. If you wanted to pay full price, which is a lot, it's $49.99, and I think that's a ridiculous price too. I think I think it's the Bleacher Report website, like Bleacher Report. It's a long name for a fucking website, but Bleacher Report I think has these AEW pay-per-views. You got to pay $49.99. I think you can pay directly on YouTube if you have a TV that has YouTube, like a smart TV, which is pretty common now. If you have a computer, like a laptop or a phone, you can project. If you buy it on your phone, you can typically screen share it to your TV. Um, but I'm telling you, man, the movie theater thing is a good option. And then, of course, there's the bootleg option. People have been known to find these wonderful links online that share paid content, for free, kind of a Napster situation. I'm not endorsing that. I'm just reporting on the rumor. Laza says, my mom is adopted. However, I did an online DNA genealogy test, showed up with some Italian background, which I believe got from her. Very good. Judd3300 says, good night. Nice to have you here. Thanks for commenting. I think you're a first time commenter. You're always welcome back. My first name, Laurence, has Roman roots and is Irish French version of Lawrence. Very good. I'm up in the middle of cornfields in Indiana. Not too many movie theaters near me, and none of them stay up open long enough, sadly. Yeah, I mean, I think you might want to do if you don't want to spend the $49.99, buddy, which I totally get, you might want to do what I just said, the bootleg version. Um, if you look me up on Twitter, maybe I'll be able to share some further advice. Bad Bunny, Laurence is not a friend, fan of. I did like Bad Bunny with his cameo on Netflix's Narcos Mexico. However, I haven't seen that show either. Chris Pine and Cody Rhodes could have a pose down in WWE. Lawrence, that's good booking. I'm sick of both of those guys. Mostly sick of Chris Pine. Cody, I just feel like I don't think he's ever going to beat Roman. I've done videos on that. I think he's there in WWE, and they're just exploiting him and making him look bad. Just like they put his father in polka dots, they're putting Cody's shoulders on the mat. Laza's Fight World fan group on Facebook is the true name. And Juan says, struggling to get on disability, so thanks for the rumor. Very good. I'm with you, buddy. What's the Twitter? I have a new Twitter page that I don't think I have any followers yet. You can be the first one. Let me get the exact name for you. Because I do a lot of, I do different things and I try to separate my world, so to speak. So my new Twitter thing for wrestling, buddy, is One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan on Twitter at 1PW Sports, and I think I literally have no followers. So if you guys want to be the first followers on my new Twitter page, it's actually a really good Twitter page, but nobody knows about it because I just haven't been around long enough. It's been around for about a week, so it's at 1PW Sports is my Twitter. If you want to see my other Twitter, which you're more than welcome to check out, it's at Ironic Handle. Which is Mike Messier, actor, whatever the fuck else I do, actor, writer, filmmaker. So yeah, Mike Messier, actor, writer, YouTuber / movie maker, is at Ironic Handle, IRONICHANDLE. So that's like the one that's been around, but then the new pro wrestling one is like the number one pro wrestling and sports fan, just like this YouTube channel. Yeah, I can drop a link, buddy. Good idea. I have 2 computers that I'm using now, so I'm hoping that I can get into this Twitter account. I think I can. I think I can. Actually, I can't. I can't get into the pro wrestling one. I want to try, buddy. Maybe I can. So hopefully, I'm still with you here. God. Yeah, I'm not able to get into the computer right now, buddy, to tell you the truth. But anyway, it's One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan on Twitter. Let's see, I'll have to set that up better. So when is Cody Rhodes, Chris Pine going to star in the sequel to the Barbie movie, Barbie 2? It's bad enough we had John Cena in the first Barbie. Hey, my buddy Lou Thez, he's a longtime subscriber, contributor, old school fan like myself. Lou says, hey, Mike, fun night of wrestling, huh? Yeah, it was. I will admit that I conked out, somewhere in the 5th or 6th of the 14 matches, but I always wake up for the main events. So, I mean, there was a dude at the end of the night in the movie theater. There's only like 6 or 8 people in there. A dude in the row in front of me was sleeping just as Darby and Christian were going. The shows are long, man. Great setup you got. Thank you, buddy. Sound outstanding. Yeah, it took me a while. I finally found this headset. These were like $30 on Amazon. These are gamer headsets, but I think it does a great job. And it's a nice big size for my big skull, my Boris Zukov styled skull. Actually, Luthez, you would actually, if you haven't seen them, the shorts that I've been putting up for the last week or two with like the old school wrestling trivia are a lot of fun. Laza says we'll have to do more with my ex Twitter and follow your ex Twitter page, Mikey Messier. Thanks, buddy. Like I said, I've got a new, and Lou, you should know this too. One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan on Twitter. If anyone wants to snag that and throw that into the comments, that'd be great. I try to do it, but I have two computers on at once, and it's very hard. Let's see. Yep. Lou says, "LOL, understandable, especially with the shoes off." Uh, Man, oh man, you can't find it. Sorry to hear. What's if Juan, if you want to put your Twitter name in, I'll find you, and then I'll follow you on there because I've got my Twitter on over here. Uh, so you put your Twitter name in there, buddy, and maybe it's Juan Bad Day as well. Let me see. Juan Bad Day. I see a gentleman. It looks like here you are, buddy, Travis, and I'm pushing follow. So you just got a new follow there, Juan, and that's from my One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan. So if you go to your like notifications, you should see that you got a new follower, and hopefully my account here is public. I would hate that if it's private. That would be pretty dumb because that would explain why I have no followers. Anyway, let's go to the next thing. Would love to see a Titanic reboot with Chris Pine, just to see Chris Pine die at the end like Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. Well, Laza, I said I don't like Chris Pine. I don't want to kill the guy. Juan, yes, I did find you, Juan. I found you, buddy. So thank you for the effort. I'm over Chris Pine now. I'm going to stop commenting on him. Yeah, let's leave Chris Pine alone before we get sued. So, guys, should I go through match by match? I mean, it's 14 matches. We did the first match. We did the 8-person tag. It was serviceable. It had some people that had little, like some followings and stuff. Tony Khan's a big wrestling fan. Thank you, Juan. Thanks for inquiring, buddy. So it looks like I have gotten. Looks like I've got my very first follower on this, which I'm really appreciative, actually. Um, uh, Very first follower, Juan. Thank you, buddy. And so let's go to the second match. We got. Oh, this was interesting. The Josh Barnett thing. Now, I guess he was the commentator with Jim Ross when they used to do New Japan Wrestling like 6 or 7 years ago. So Josh Barnett, and I guess Josh is like a real. Now, did he do UFC, or is he just respected as a shooter or what? I guess I'm not terribly familiar with Josh Barnett, like all his accolades, but basically, this was the first we heard tonight of Mox on commentary, which was an experience. And I thought that Mox did a pretty good job of putting over this, like, this is an in-house fight type of thing. So Mox was pretty good with storyline stuff in this one. Um, and then they did the whole Oscar speech after the match. But once again, Claudio, he's in there with Keith Lee and Mercedes and the Blackpool Combat Club. I mean, I like the club. I just wish they had a different name because it makes no sense. Hey, Bob Cook. Bob Cook is a legendary pro wrestler. Watched many Bob Cook matches. We're friends on Facebook. Sometimes we disagree, but that's okay. Bob is a great wrestler, the best. I think he was it the best left in pro wrestling, according to Arn Anderson. And Bob says Boris Zukov, that's an old school name pulled out of the hat. Bob, I was actually going to put together a little Boris Zukov tribute video because he uh, was started off as Private Jim Nelson, which I don't think it's discussed enough that Boris Zukov started off as a trainee to Sergeant Slaughter in the Mid Atlantic Territory and then kind of reincarnated himself as Boris Zukov, which I don't think any promotion ever mentioned that. Unlike Crusher Darsaw, Barry Darsaw, who started off as Crusher Darsaw, an American, and then got brainwashed by the evil Nikolai Volkov. So I did do a nice Barry Darsaw tribute video today. I did the 5 faces of Darsaw, the Repo Man, Smash of Demolition, um, hole in one, which is actually a really cool gimmick. It's his baseball, his golf gimmick, and then the blacktop bully. So I had Barry Darsar's entire career condensed to 15 seconds. It was a right hand. Sorry, Bob. The big right hand by Bob. It's late. It's like 1:53 in the morning, so I got my left and my right mixed up. But the big right hand by Bob Cook. Bob was on TBS, I want to say, for 6 or 7 years, wrestling the Arn Andersons, the Ric Flairs, Stings, everybody. So good to have you here, Bob. Thanks for checking in. And yes, the right hand of Bob Cook. And I believe Bob's been doing some stuff with the Cauliflower Alley Club, which is very impressive. B. Brian Blair and everybody over at the Cauliflower Club. My friend Chris Anino hangs out with Gary Wolf and Brian Blair quite a bit. Gary Wolf of the original Pitbulls. I always thought it was interesting that the WWE tried to rip off the Pitbulls around 2004. They had two other guys use the Pitbulls name, but they had nothing to do with the ECW Pitbulls. I think Josh Barnett was a champion in UFC from memory. I think it was a down period before UFC took off again, the post Shamrock Gracie golden age of UFC. That sounds about right. But he was there tonight. Claudio Castagnoli, Bob, I was saying, him, Keith Lee. There's a lot of people that have come over to AEW that we thought like this was going to be their savior, being in AEW, but it hasn't turned out that way. Luchasaurus versus Nick Wayne. This was the storyline of the night. I mean, this is what started it. This whole Luchasaurus, the mom thing, Nick Wayne's mom. She's like this 40-year-old MILF of a mom that Christian's going after. It was really good stuff. The match itself here wasn't particularly good. I mean, Nick Wayne, I guess he's another Seattle guy. The match was decent, but it's good to see Luchasaurus win. I do like Luchasaurus as a heel. I think that makes sense. The AEW Trios Championship match, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn versus TMDK. What does TMDK stand for, guys? I was trying to figure that out all night. I couldn't. But yeah, the AEW World Trios Champions. I have no problem with having a 6-man tag team championship, but they have two. They have the Young Bucks and Adam Page with the ROH thing. One thing that I did miss tonight, I had to take a bathroom break, and I came back into the movie theater to see that I had missed Max Caster's rap. So I was very upset about that. If anyone knows what he said in his rap, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn won. Another, serviceable match. What I did not like about this match, and Bob would probably appreciate this, there was like some stuff with Billy Gunn and smiling at the opponents, basically, like Billy Gunn and the referee Aubrey Edwards, all kind of like having a little joke before the match started. Bob says, yes, sir. I'm the this is Bob Cook, everybody. Yes, sir. I'm the social media director for Cauliflower Alley Club, caulifloweralleyclub.org. Join the club, all wrestlers and fans. Very respected promotion, the Cauliflower Alley Club.org. They have a Hall of Fame. And Bob, I get into this with people. People like say, oh, this wrestler should be in the Hall of Fame. That wrestler should be in the Hall of Fame. I always point out which Hall of Fame, because as far as I know, the Cauliflower Alley Club, they have a Hall of Fame that's quite respectable. And I dare say that they have more of a physical location than the WWE Hall of Fame. Chungus Khan says the marks don't know. Psych, I don't know. Chungus, having fun. Lawrence says, TMDK is a faction with Australian roots. It stands for the Mighty Don't Kneel. That's the dumbest. I wish it stood for something else. Thank you for telling me that, but I don't quite get it. Maybe that's some type of like mantra of Australia, so I don't want to piss on it, but it doesn't do much for me. Kind of like FTR, to be honest with you. I love the FTR tag team, but just the fact that they're walking around with initials and they never really say what FTR stands for. I know it's supposed to be either fuck the revival or, for the revival. I just don't get it. Luthez as the Mighty Don't Kneel. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the Edge video. You're welcome, Coolio. Yes, it was a publicity stunt on my end. I had a feeling that Edge was coming out as soon as they put Christian Cage in the main event. I'm thinking they're putting this into the end because something big is going to happen. And we've been seeing the online Twitter, Facebook rumors for a couple of weeks now about Edge going over to AEW, and that's been picking up in the last few days. So I did put it up. I'm not sure how many thousands of hits it's getting, but I got about 3,000 hits in an hour. It is bootleg. It is against the rules. I might get a copyright infringement, but if I get 30 or 40 or 50 subscribers, or even one subscriber in Coolio, then it's well worth the copyright infringement. Even though he's in my top 5, I can't get behind AEW storylines, productions, etc. CM Punk was my favorite. Still don't want AEW. It's up to you, man. I mean, this is the thing about choice, and I get into this debate all the time with people. I mean, there's so many things that we can watch. I mean, this morning I woke up a little bit early for me, and then I'm like, you know what? There's an NFL game on today. There's the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing in Wembley Stadium, so I put the game on, and then I was kind of like footballed out for the day, but I started doing stuff, and the next thing you know, I'm watching the next game and the next game, and what wrestling can be like that if you're not particularly passionate about one promotion. And I always advise people to do this Coolio, especially 2016 2017 when WWE was really terrible. I was leading something called Raw Protest, hashtag Raw Protest. You can find the old videos on this channel. I was telling people to stop watching Raw, and some people actually listened to me. And I do feel like there were so many fans like myself that TNA was going from one network to another. Voodoo Child just threw in $2. Thank you very much. Very nice of you. And that's been the first, super chat in quite some time, Voodoo Child. So thank you, man or lady. I'm not sure which, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Um, my point is that Raw was horrible. 2016, 2017, 2018. It really was, the first All In by Cody, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Page. Adam Page was on that show. Jericho made a little appearance. You got to give credit to Nick Aldis because he was the NWA champion. He showed up for that show in Chicago, and that is what led to AEW. And I'm telling you, creatively, the WWE has improved since AEW's been around. So even if you're a fan of WWE, a loyalist to WWE, you got to appreciate the fact that AEW makes them sharper. Bob says it's not a Hall of Fame. They honor people each year with various awards, but they don't have a physical location, only a yearly reunion. Talking about the Cauliflower Alley Club, which I haven't been there yet. I got to get there sometime, Bob. So thanks for the clarification. Laurence definitely knows who you are. Very cool. Bob Cook. Share a lot of stuff from Cauliflower Alley Club on my Facebook group, Loz's Pro Wrestling fan page, as well as Mike Messier's A Foreign Object. Let's see. Coolio 3000. For him to retire with Cage is his sunset. And I believe you're talking about Edge and Christian. And I was thinking about this. Edge and Christian, 80s, they're young fans in Canada. They're best of friends. 1990, they're watching Warrior versus Hogan in the Toronto Skydome. I want to say Christian was the Hogan fan and Edge was the Warrior fan, or maybe that's flipped. But you can see video footage of Edge and Christian sitting there in the Skydome watching Hogan and Warrior as like teenagers. And by the time they're in the 90s, they're wrestling. By the time they're in the late 90s, 98, 99, Edge and Christian are with the Brood. They're with Gangrel. They're in WWE. The 2000s, both of those guys had a great decade. 2010, I think that's when we I want to say Edge had his serious physical problems around, I want to say 2011, 2012. And I think Edge's last WrestleMania was against Alberto Del Rio. Was that maybe 2011 or 2012? And Christian was able to wrestle for a few more years. He had the Randy Orton stuff, and Christian actually got to get out of the shadows of Edge for a few years. And then they both kind of went away for a while. They did some podcast stuff together. They had a cute little show on the WWE Network for a cup of coffee together. And, Edge at least got married to Beth Phoenix. I think they've had one or two kids. I'm not sure what about Christian, if he's done that as far as the wife and kid stuff. But now they're back. And so we're talking, at least with wrestling, on a worldwide level. 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. That's 4 decades for these guys. That's quite a story. Lawrence says, when is CM Punk going to start his own promotion? I would watch it. I actually heard that was Jeff Jarrett suggested that. And I don't know if, I'm sure other people have suggested it too, but Jeff Jarrett on his podcast was suggesting to Punk to start his own show. Once again, thanks to Voodoo Child. What a good example for everybody. But of course, guys, if you really want to support me in this channel, just subscribe, share the URL. If you like to read books, you can read my books, Fighter Play Basketball, Distance from Avalon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read them for free. And so forth. Coolio once again says, I love that they have the other option. I just can't behind it. I love TNA and watch Lucha Underground. Yeah, Lucha Underground. See, that's the thing. I don't think I had the channel. I had cable at the time, but I could never find Lucha Underground. There's some remnants, like Penta is in AEW, so I don't know if that would get you to give it a shot. But you know what, Coolio, if you want to see some free AEW samplings, I have this whole The House Always Wins house show with this 10-man tag team match with Omega and the Bucks and everybody. It's on this channel. So there's some clips you can watch for free right here on this channel of AEW if you want to give it a shot. Bob once again says CM Punk's no dummy. That would be a money loser, and he knows it. Yeah, and I think Jim Cornette had this line, Bob, and I quote Cornette a lot because he's good. Cornette says, how do you make $1 million in the pro wrestling business? Lose 2 million. So I mean, wrestling's a tough racket. So I mean, it takes someone like Vince McMahon, who bought a $7 million worth company from his father for $1 million. And yes, Vince blew up the WWE in a good way, for him, not for the territories. And then you have Tony Khan, who's a Richie Rich. He's getting his father's money. His father earned his money through inventing some type of thing for your car bumper on Toyota cars. So, I mean, I'm not saying that his family doesn't deserve his money, but Tony kind of inherited that money, and he's doing what he wants because he has it to spend. Yes, Coolio agrees that WWE's was on a downfall. We're talking 2016, 2017. Lawrence is putting Bob Cook over once again. Bob also has some T-shirts that I've seen that look pretty cool. So I don't know if Bob, if those are available for sale, feel free to plug them in here and put them in the comment, and I'll put it on the screen. Coolio says, I got back into WWE starting with WrestleMania, where it started with the Sammy Bloodline storyline. Okay, so that wasn't too long ago. So that was, are you talking about 2022? Because Sammy and Kevin Owens wrestled the Usos this year. So it sounds like you're kind of what they would call a lapsed fan. And that's no insult. It's wrestling fans that kind of go away for a while and come back are referred to as lapsed fans. I did hear about this, Bob, and I haven't watched the whole speech. We honored CM Punk this year, and he gave an awesome speech. I'm wondering if his wonderful little wife showed up. I think AJ Lee is a very underrated women's wrestler. I think I did read most of her book, AJ Lee, Punk's wife. I think that the kind of her version of the mic drop where she shot on the Bellas on Monday Night Raw was excellent. And unfortunately, she has some type of injuries that she can't wrestle anymore. What would Lou Thez do? Lou Thez says tribalism is funny to an old guy like me that grew up with only 6 TV channels and exactly 1 hour a week of wrestling a week. I can remember those days, buddy. I mean, and it was like that was the most important hour of the week was the wrestling hour, 11 a.m. Channel 20, Washington D.C., WWF. Laurence says WWE does seem to be an effort in when they have competition and stop being lazy for sure. That's true. Daniel Lowe is happy to see Edge in AEW. That's the story of the hour, and that's going to be the story for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Hail Dracula, ooh, spooky. Hey, Chungus. Yeah, the Brood. Yes, the Brood was a great Gangrel and everybody. You can also watch Disregard the Vampire, Mike Messier documentary, which is on this channel, as well as One Man and a Camera Films. To be honest, when WWF bought WCW for a long time, I kept my passion for pro wrestling alive by watching good indie wrestling shows that gave me a bang for my buck. I understand that completely. FTR stands for Flickin' the Red Kidney Bean. Very good. I enjoy Lucha Underground when I went through YouTube. Coolio says over under CM Punk joins WWE come SummerSlam. I would say maybe even Survivor Series. Bob says Jerry Lawler said, "How does a billionaire become a millionaire? Start a wrestling company." Perfect. Yeah, it's a tough business. I mean, let's see. ProWrestlingTees.com. Thank you. That's where Bob's shirts are with the big right hand. No, she wasn't there, meaning AJ Lee. I did see AJ Lee wrestle Paige at a Providence, Rhode Island house show years ago. That is classic regarding Jerry Lawler saying that. CM Punk, hey, CM Punk, good to see you here, buddy. We're all wondering where you are. We're all talking about you. So I'm glad that you're here. We thought you might show up at WWE, but you're on One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan channel. Appreciate you, CM Punk. ROH World Tag Team title. The pay-per-view started. The Righteous against MJF. This was interesting to me on a personal level. Vinny Marseglia, I'm not sure, Vincent basically, but Vinny Marseglia is how I knew him. He's actually kind of a friend of mine. Really nice guy, very talented guy. He actually is very good at making props. And MJF beats both of these guys. A little bit of chicanery here. Hold on a second. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how I feel about a world champion wrestling in gimmick matches. And I'm not sure why they're keeping the tag titles. If the ROH tag titles are supposed to mean something, why were they going to keep them on MJF as a solo for very long? I think just throwing more and more belts on a guy doesn't really make him over. It just kind of throws more and more belts on a guy. Yeah, with CM Punk, we feel you, man. We know you left AEW. How's Mindy's Muffins doing? That's my favorite thing about it. That post-show scrum from 2 years ago or a year and a half ago with CM Punk, that was worth it for him to even be in AEW for the Mindy's Muffins. Let me get to the rest of these results, everybody. The MJF match was okay. I didn't like the fact that a world champion is in the first match on the show. He's not defending his title. He's making these two guys that he's wrestling look like bums, and he is he is just wrestling a comedy match basically. World Championship. This is a match. This is my sleeper match of the night. Eddie Kingston versus Shibata, and I say that because I fell asleep. So I don't really have much to say about it. It looks like they did the punch. You punch me, I punch you thing. Eddie Kingston retains the title. I feel like they dropped the ball on Eddie 2 years ago. This is a good question. Who do I think should beat MJF for the title? Let me get back to you on that. I think Adam Cole should beat him, but unfortunately, Adam Cole's got a screwed up foot right now. So I think that that storyline, if Adam's foot can come back in 6 months or however long it's going to be, if Adam Cole has one title reign in him, now's the time to take it because you could really do some cool stuff with that storyline. If not him, I would put the title on Bryan Danielson, and I don't know if MJF and Bryan Danielson has been done. They had that 1 hour match. I think Bryan Danielson's the guy that gives the best matches in the company. And I think that he, if he's going to retire, maybe he doesn't even want the belt. Maybe he feels he doesn't need the belt because he's already over, which I can see that. One of the women's titles, once again, why does AEW have 2 singles women's titles? Why don't they have a women's tag team title or even a women's trios title? But the TBS title, Statlander versus Julia. Julia Hart is a real prodigy. This girl is super young. She's like 21 years old now. She looks great. She was the breakout star of the Varsity Blondes. I think that's really interesting. Gafe Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., and they brought her in as the cheerleader, and she outshined all 3 of them because she went over to this group. So there you go with that. The Statlander holds the title. The Young Bucks win this clusterfuck of a tag team match. We don't know if Rey Fenix was seriously injured in this thing or not. Coolio says WWE was on a rise close to the Attitude Era for that 5 to 8 months. Vince was gone. Yeah, you're right. Creatively, at least, maybe not with ratings, but creatively. CM Punk is declaring himself as the real world champion. Understood. Thank you. Great picks. Let's see what else. I'm just going to go through the matches here. Was Ray Phoenix seriously injured? It seems like it. We had some other type of injuries this night with the FTR. I'll get to that. Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland. This was maybe this stole the show. I mean, this was the first match that I felt, at least for me, where everyone really got into it. And this did feel like a match that kind of transcended the show. And Seattle had its favorites, and I did like seeing Paige as kind of the heel. Like Paige as a heel who didn't really know how to be a heel. I thought that was good. Good match. Swerve wins that one. Then we had the Ricky Starks Wheeler Yuta thing. We've got Mox back on commentary. I thought, it would have been fine if this was the last we heard of Mox for the night. I don't think we needed him for the next match. This was the right decision. I mean, if they had Ricky Starks lose this match to kind of put Wheeler Yuta over on him, I think that would have been a mistake, because I think that the Ricky Starks as a main event guy is still a work in progress. I think it is progressing and I like it. I just think that he's not ready to start losing matches yet, Ricky Starks. So good for them. And, it's. Wheeler is still in young boy mode, and I think that's fine, because he's still working his way up. The next thing, I think this is the match that people are going to be talking about forever, but my problem with this is I don't know. Like I said at the top of this podcast, Zack Sabre Jr. must have skipped sell day at wrestling school, because he does not know how to sell. He didn't sell in this match, and is that part of his gimmick? But he's, like I said, Road Warrior Hawk, Jerry King Lawler, pile driver, Memphis. Zack Sabre Jr., yes, he can lay on the offense, and he's got these cool submission holds, and he's a different type of wrestler, but he's not selling worth a shit. And I think, Bob Cook or anybody can tell you that to me, that's a big part of wrestling. And CM Punk made a point about that when he came into AEW. But I did like this match a lot, but I think I'm not a big Sabre fan, and this match made me less of a Sabre fan. Laza's checking in again. AEW should give Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page some transitional runs as AEW champion, just to build up the title with its heritage of champions. Well, buddy, they've already been champion. I mean, you just named two guys that have both been champion. Kenny, I think, had the title for over a year, and Hangman had it. His title reign was pretty short. He beat Omega, and then he lost to Punk. And so Punk, what do you think about these guys? I mean, you wrestled them. Also, Chris Jericho should have a transitional run as AEW champion. Well, Laza, you've named all the champions. 'Cause all these guys are already champion. I would have, this is Lou. I would have Danielson win it at the end of his run up to retirement. He can then retire as champion and give the company an opportunity to do a complete reboot, because MJF is gone sooner than later. That makes sense. I don't know if I would have him retire as champion. I think I would have him lose the title to somebody, but I think beyond that, I mean, just have him lose his last match as champion. I think, to me, Lou, and we could debate about this, but I think when a title gets vacated and they have tournaments for it, I think every time you do that, it does diminish the title a little bit. And I think it takes years to reestablish it. And granted, the stuff, we get that. But for me, when you look at the WCW world title, I mean, there was literally a thing in like 2000 when Kevin Nash was the champion and he handed the belt to Ric Flair as a present. So, I mean, and that's not even talking about the Arquette and the Vince Russo stuff. We're getting towards the end of this rundown, folks. Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Ibushi versus the Don Callis family. I thought this was a fun match. I thought it's interesting when you take all these big names and you throw them in a 6-man tag. CM Punk is shooting. We have an exclusive shoot here from CM Punk on Tony Khan. When you have this 6-man tag with all these big names, to me, it's kind of a waste of big names, because I don't really see what the point is. You know what I mean? I mean, I think any of these guys, Osprey or all these guys, are capable of a singles match, and I just feel like it's a clusterfuck. But it was a good match. This was a better 6-man tag than they had at Wembley with a variation of these guys. Roderick Strong, Eddie Kingston, Colt Cabana would also make good transitional champions in AEW. I think for maybe the TNT title or the international title, Laza, I don't see any of those guys, with the exception of maybe Eddie a year ago, as being an AEW world champion. I mean, I think Roderick Strong, he's always injured, and I just see him as kind of a lackey. 10 years ago, Roderick Strong was great in Ring of Honor, but now I'm not so sure. All right, folks. So then we had our tag team title match. We had FTR. Was Cash Wheeler really hurt, or was that just uh, I am in Jacksonville, Florida, CM Punk. I'm glad you're here, buddy. I am in Jacksonville, Florida. I watched the pay-per-view from the comfort of the movie theater tonight. If you check over on my short section, buddy, I go to a lot of NXT shows, and I've been to a lot of AEW shows. I have all types of clips. I'm going to wrap this up soon, guys, because I'm losing my voice. This has been fun. FTR tag team thing looked a little bit clustery. Looked like Cash was actually injured. I'm wondering about his stuff with jail, like his crime stuff. Hold on. But they won the match, FTR, and it was that big guy, Mark Davis. Was he seriously injured? Was that legitimate with his wrist? I'm not sure. And then I think their next and final match was the Darby Allin Christian Cage match, which we talked about. I talked about that one a lot. Here you go, Laza. I'm going to agree with you one. Uh, Samoa Joe would be a good transitional AEW champion. Do you know Edge? I want to retire that dude, go back to WWE. I want to wrestle him in WWE. I've never met Edge. I've met a lot of wrestlers, CM Punk. I've met Flair a bunch of times. Brian Pillman Jr. I've had a coffee with him. You can see Brian Pillman Jr. and myself discussing my book, A Distance from Avalon. If you look up Brian Pillman Jr. on this channel, he's there for a few minutes. Ox Baker was a really good friend of mine. He was a wrestler in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Raven, if you look at Chris and the Coffee Girl, the Philadelphia Experiment, you can see my experience with Raven. I just saw the WCW referee Billy Silverman at an engagement party a few weeks ago. Let's get this. Claudia would also be a good transitional AEW champion. In between younger talent, they are building for more permanent runs of the title. Well, you've got a lot of transitional champions, buddy. Who do you want to see as the champion? I mean, but Claudio is great. CM Punk, man. I mean, this exclusive knowledge from CM Punk. I mean, he's sitting there, he's eating his Mindy's muffins, and he's telling us his feelings on Tony Khan. I can't wait to turn into the Wrestling Observer tomorrow morning and read that CM Punk showed up on One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel. Guys, I'm going to give this pay-per-view a B+. I'm being a little bit critical. I think parts of it were an A. I think the beginning and the end. I'm going to go with what Andrew Gullick said this morning. I gave him shit about it, but I think there was just like 2 or 3 or 4 too many matches. Billy Silverman was great. Really nice guy. My buddy Chris Anino and his girlfriend Vanessa are getting married, and Billy came out for the engagement party, as did I. Okay, folks, this has been an hour and 30 minutes. I really appreciate everybody who hung in there. If you want to copy and paste the URL, thanks to Luthez for the feedback on the microphone. CM Punk with an exclusive appearance. I appreciate that. My buddy Laza from Australia. The master of the right-handed punch, Bob Cook, checking in. I'm losing my voice, guys. Have a great night. We'll see you at the matches. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Very good.